esteemed colleagues, guests, and honoured attendees. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to this afternoon's session. It's a first, a panel unlike any other panel you would have seen at any RISE conference before. To celebrate 20 years of our conference, we wanted to try something a bit experimental, a bit different, and hopefully engaging and maybe entertaining. My name is Sarah Sherman. I've been a Code Fellow for about 10 years now, and I'm the Director of the Bloomsbury Learning Exchange. And together with my colleague Lewis, who's a Fellow of Code as well, and an Assistant Professor of the Portuguese Open University, we're delighted to welcome you to Who Wants to Be a Futurologist? Joining us this afternoon are two teams of renowned professionals involved in various ways in the world of digital education and online learning. In a moment, I will get each panellist to introduce themselves. They are, you can see them on the slide. Lewis and I will be posing a number of questions to our teams, and you, the audience, remote or in the room, are very welcome to try your luck answering the questions and seeing how you match against our panellists. So now, let's meet our teams. Let's start with Team A. We've got Steve and Roger. I'm going to give you each 2 minutes to introduce yourselves and why you think you've been invited today.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me today. I'm Steve Rowett. I'm the Head of Digital Education Futures at UCL. And I've been around in this field, I suppose, even longer than this conference. So I thought I'd have a rummage through the boxes under the stairs and see what I could find. I was listening to a podcast a couple of years ago, and it suggested on the subject of future studies that 30 years is quite a good time frame to think about in technology, because it's about a working life, and it's about a generation gap, so you can see how technology changes. So I thought, what was I doing 30 years ago? 1994. And I was just finishing my degree in computer science with artificial intelligence at Leeds University. I went on to do my final year project, which was a conference about virtual reality. And I then started my PhD, which was how universities could use video conferencing to teach online. And I thought it's interesting that it's taken 30 years for those things to come out of the lab and into mainstream. But even back before then, when I was at college doing my A-levels, I was writing and selling software for schools on floppy disks, if any of you remember that. So I don't think I'm qualified to be a futurologist, but I think I am qualified to reflect on the past and maybe see what's changed and what stayed the same.
Although I would argue that UCL thinks you're a futurologist because that's your job title. Thank you very much, Steve. Roger.
Hi, my name is Roger Emery. I'm Senior Learning Solutions Consultant for Co-Sector, which is part of the University of London, so it is my head office. My first foray into distance learning, as it was then, was also floppy disks, putting them on books for children, and then putting the first distance learning version of the Wine and Spirit Education Trust distance learning course out on CD-ROM with books. So yeah, books used to exist once. And then someone turned the internet on, so that really killed the publishing world and the book publishing. And then later rolled out the first virtual learning environment, BLE, at Solent University back in the very early 2000s. So that's sort of my history, really. Done corporate training, military training as well. So lots and lots of digital learning, computer-based training. But I think my very first distance learning that I experienced that was delivered by electronic means was as a child, which was BBC Schools Radio. Okay, 1975, but there we go.
It's a bit before us, I imagine. Thank you. So this is your Team A, ladies and gentlemen. So let me now introduce you to Team B, and we start with Stella.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stella Ekebuisi. I'm Head of Digital Education Futures at the London School of Economics. And I'm also Deputy Director of the Eden Centre for Education Enhancement. I don't have a lot to say about why I'm going to invite somebody to that. I think it's because I've got futures in my job title. And that's really because LSE, as a Russell Group institution, recognised probably about 5 years ago, or maybe a bit longer, that it needed to bring itself into perhaps the present, to be in a position that it could start thinking around its future from an education perspective. Because before I joined, it didn't have ahead of digital education at all. So we're doing a hell of a lot to try and modernise the institution, which is an incredibly successful institution, but needs a lot of work, I think.
Thank you. LSE is very lucky to have you, Sarah. Then Chris?
Hello, everyone. So my name's Chris. I'm going to go from the beginning and come up to the present, if that's right, instead of reverse chronology. So I started out in my educational journey in London at the Royal Veterinary College, not far around the corner. I was walking up Gower Street past the Union. I then ended up falling out of vet school and met Sarah, where I worked. I worked at the RVC for a number of years in a digital team called the e-media unit and was using technology to enhance education. I basically then ran with that baton. The rest of my career has been trying to use technology to enhance education. I took that to the University of Surrey, where I was one of the founding members of the vet school there, became the head of digital learning for the University of Surrey, and then more recently became the chief academic officer for Keith AI, which is an AI edtech spin-out. We started our journey looking at AI enhanced grading. We're pivoting towards AI capabilities, a big way. I think Sarah invited me on because she knows I'm up for random stuff. So I asked her about SaaS Fest and fire breathing. So fire breathing and starting a hat revolution are amongst my hobbies. But looking forward to this session.
Thank you very much, and that's your team B, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a game of 4 rounds. So you're going to have 4 quick fire rounds with 7 questions in each. We've got VLEs, virtual learning environments, so known as learning management systems. We've got social digital media. We've got round 3 on MOOCs, and our final round is on assessment.
Before we move on, we'd like you to interact because the questions will be for the audience as well. So hopefully you'll be able to scan the QR code on the left. I'll ask colleagues to put the QR code on the main screen as well. So the audience will have the same questions as Sarah said for 4 rounds, and then we'll have the panelists answering the same questions. So let's wait for the screen to show, or you might be able to grab the QR code on the left on the smaller screen. And as the first activity, we'd like you to pick your country, your place of work, so we can get a sense of how international we are. And I'd like also to invite the audience, the online audience, to interact with us as well, because they might be in different regions of the country. So.
Oh, well, we'll keep it going for a little while. If Matt picks...
It's on the table. You should have a...
Oh, it's difficult. It's difficult. Sorry.
It'd be on every table. This one. Oh,
QR codes on the table. They in fact be different than QR codes, but let's find out. It may not take us to that.
I think that was the big.
Well, we can certainly see some green blobs here and around that. Keep that going. We'll have a nice record where our audience came from today, by that time. So, our next slide, please, is round 1. A bit more time to do that. Right, so we've done that one. Let's move on to the next one, and we're on to virtual learning environments. Nice.
So you'll be able to see the questions on the left or at times at the main screen. So we are trying to move from screen to screen. And sorry if you didn't have the chance to add the map, but let's see the next question, Matt, please.
Yes.
Yeah, you could.
Should we just ask questions while waiting for the text to work? Okay. So it's a multiple choice, so you're going to have to be listening out carefully. The first question is, what was the first commercial virtual learning environment platform? What was the first commercial VLE platform? Was it, there are. Was it WebCT? Was it First Class? Was it CourseNet? Or was it Blackboard? So this is for the question, this is for team A. You can see what the audience is going for, but the question for Team A, the first commercial virtual learning environment platform, WebCT, first class, CourseNet, or Blackboard. Do we have an answer for question A?
Well, I'm going to punt in there and say, why is it Lotus Learning Space on that list? So I think that's quite a lot older than WebCT.
That isn't a possible answer.
I know, but I'm all good.
Love it when panelists tell the quiz show that you're wrong.
My first thought, famously WebCT, I think, was the first one. It originated out of the University of Ireland, right?
Okay, should we pass it to TV, see if they concur, or do we have a different answer for the first session?
I think we're probably going to go with the audience. We were going to use one of our lifelines there, but I think being more from I had not heard of all of these, so I had on that. So WebCT is looking like a solid answer.
Okay, so WebCT was the first commercial VLE, and it was web-based, launched in 1995. First Class holds the title in 1990 as the first centralised learning environment. Lotus, whatever's on there. CourseNet does not exist, I made it up.
That's why I'm not.
Okay, so I hope that you guys, the audience looks like they, 42% has got the right answer. Let's move on to the next question, please.
See the questions on the device. So
Oh, that's true. Okay, so the next question is, according to the 2024-25 Heads of E-Learning Forum survey, how many UK HE institutions out of 127 use Canvas as their primary VLE? Instruction equals.
I was going to say spot the question from the sponsors. I might have a sneaky advantage.
A few options here. You've got 7, 16, 23, or 31. How many UK institutions?
Web voting hasn't been turned on.
Web voting has not been turned on without technical assistance. Matt, do that.
Oh, no.
So any guesses?
Yes, let's go back to Tina. What's your first guess? Or your own guess?
I was reading Neil Mausley's excellent review of the AT market, which came out in February, a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember the exact number, but I do remember it was smaller institutions tended to use Moodle, bigger ones often used another commercial platform. I will go for 23.
Okay, Team B. Any answers on 23?
What do you think, audience? Do we think higher or lower? Higher? A few highers, lowers? There's a few. So there's some enthusiastic lowers, but there's more people saying higher. Okay, I think we're going higher. Let's go 31.
Okay. So 127 respondents to the survey in 2024-25. The answer is, we've got that. No, it didn't launch. The answer is 23. So that's Team A. Well done. The final question in this round is, will VLE still exist in 10 years' time? So you've looked, for those of you in the audience, you've got a multiple choice of yes, maybe, no, don't know if VLE still exists in 10 years. What do you think, Team A? Any ideas?
Well, given I was at a symposium, and I think 2008 or 9 at Association for Learning Technology conference, the VLE is dead. And then the following year, there was one that was hosted with the VLE is undead. Given that was where we 16 years ago, I think we're going to still see VLEs in 10 years' time.
Yeah, okay, so Team A is the yes. TV?
100% yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, 100% yes. Yeah, we think VLEs, the pace of change of universities, we tend to think, yes, VLEs will still be here. They may not be slightly the same. I hope they're not exactly the same, but they'll be around.
So let's see those of you in the room, if you think yes, you agree with the teams, stick your hand up. Okay, big hands down. If you think maybe or no. Thanks, Stephen.
Can we get some audience responses as to why they answered that way? Just to bring the audience in a bit.
We could do, Chris, we haven't got enough time.
Okay, so
We've got more rounds. We've got more rounds. There we go. So round 2, over to you, Lewis.
Well, round 2 is about social and digital media. And Sarah, I think we've got the questions if you don't mind.
Yes.
So for the first question we have for this round, from your point of view, which factor will be considered the most reliable indicator of whether an academic influencer is credible? It's a long one.
It is multiple choice.
Multiple choice. So, A, number of followers on social media. B, verified institutional affiliation. C, frequency of posting content. And D, number of brand partnerships.
If we could have the poll
Yeah.
displayed, that would be really
Yeah.
helpful because they were quite.
I think on the main screen.
Yeah, on the main screen, Max, if you could put the poll everywhere on for that question.
So while the audience is interacting, can we go to team B now, this time to start with it?
Sorry, what were the options and what was the time period?
We are just,
Is it?
yeah. So number of followers on social media, verified institutional affiliation, so we can see up there, main screen, and frequency of posting content or number of brand partnerships.
How far in the future are we projecting?
It's a good point.
Okay.
So way of avoiding the
Thank you.
question.
Yes.
We don't believe the question. And it depends on your definition of credible, I guess. To another academic or to a lay audience. I mean, yeah, I'd agree with the audience. My perspective is certainly verified institutional affiliation. It helps, but you could be from the best university in the world and you might not be being a great influencer or putting out great stuff. So it doesn't really mean that much. I think, social media is pretty broad as well. So Instagram followers might not be related to your work necessarily. Yeah, I don't know, it's tough. I'd say option E, if I get the option.
Okay. What about team A? Do you have a point here? Do we agree with the audience? Because we have a.
Yeah, I think the academic credibility and the affiliation is a very valid one there. We don't, at the moment, seem to have very good ways of knowing the source of information that we see. And I think what ties in with this, and we always tell our students, look at the source of information, is it credible, is it reliable? But we don't have very powerful ways of credentialing that. I think if that comes with it, then that kind of credentialing becomes really valuable.
Okay.
Which one?
Yeah.
So the affiliation. So
Affiliation still. Okay, so that's an agreement here with the audience. Good. Let's move on to the second question on this block, and this is a true and false question. Having a large social media following automatically indicates that the science influencer provides accurate and evidence-based information. True or false?
I'd love to see somebody brave say true.
Well, there you go.
It's
5%. Team A, you clearly. Sorry, team A. Yeah.
I think it depends which billionaire owns the planet. They import as much bias there is, and the algorithm pushes that to the top.
Good. Yeah. And yeah, it's definitely part of this game. So anyway, it's within the channel. And finally, team B, what do you think?
We are definitely going with false. But I do think there is a case to be made. Remember the early days of Wikipedia and the idea that large groups tend to kind of like move things in the direction of truth and verification and looking for sources. So there is value in the crowd, but it absolutely doesn't mean that actually the evidence based rather than just reaction.
Thank you.
I still use Wikipedia. You still use it.
Yeah. Last question for this round, number 6. Which factor do you think most commonly drives a university's large social media following? Option A, you can see over there, number of academic papers published, high-profile, alumni and global brand recognition. Option B, and option C, fancy learning spaces, and D, number of doctoral programs. So, wants to start? Maybe team B.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd add in there like photogenic campus. Everyone loves a nice picture of a shiny new building that people never go in. Colin, reference some work there. Yeah, no, I guess, I mean, I would agree with the audience largely here. I think people in general will be following places they want to go to if they want to find out what interesting things coming from them. I'd love it if more people followed universities because of their fancy learning spaces. There's probably a subreddit somewhere about that for people to geek out over. But I suspect, yeah, probably option B.
Thanks, Team B and Team A. Do we also agree with Team A and the audience?
I agree that that's probably a figure, although occasionally an academic paper gets published that gets in the press, gets a real sort of, populist opinion, and then goes wider than just the university sector and goes across the wider media and wider demographic that the university is looking at. So sometimes that can happen. And a particular piece of research then gets, I don't know, it's a political thing or marketing or whatever. So I think that's the way it's also possibly relevant to certain conditions.
Good point.
That's a little story there. UCL appears in the news programmes quite a lot, experts from UCL. And a lot of the reason for that is not particularly that they're from UCL, it's just that it's really close to the TV studios. So it's just easier to get them in.
Yeah, it's convenient.
Very convenient.
Okay, so let's move on to
Marvellous.
yeah.
Round 3, we're on to MOOCs. Round 3. The first question of round 3 of MOOCs, massive open online courses. Let's just go for it. Whilst we're waiting for the whole everywhere to move on. There we go. That's round 3. And the first question is, which university provided the first MOOC on FutureLearn? The first university to provide the first MOOC on FutureLearn platform. It is multiple choice. And your options are the Open University, University of East Anglia, Southampton University, or Oxford University. So we've got Open.
We thought it was Open University.
Open University for Team B.
And we say we were good. We didn't look at your answers.
Okay.
Opted for that.
Team A, do you agree? Open University being the first MOOC on FutureLearn?
I mean, Open University invented FutureLearn, so you would think they would have the first offering on the platform.
The actual answer is the University of East Anglia.
Oh, no.
So although the OU founded FutureLearn in 2012, provided the first cohort of courses, but the first MOOC to go live was University of East Anglia's branding course. So any of you who work in marketing might already know that. So there we go. And actually, yeah, the audience agreed wrongly as well. It was the OU. All right, there you go. So the next question is, in what year did the first MOOC launch? So was that the first MOOC? The options are 2002, 2005, 2008, 2011. They have popped up now. The first MOOC, when did it launch? What's your thing? Your team, they seem to be still conferring over there. Team A?
I'm going to go there, as usual, and say, what's the definition of the because the Open University, if anyone was, minded to sit up at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday in the 70s, could actually go to any university lecture that was transmitted on TV back in the time. Was that a MOOC? Or not?
This context.
In this context,
It was great when you were on sick from school as well. You could get to social programs and meet you do. It was good. Any thoughts then? The first MOOC. Do you want to give it a guess, Steve?
Well, if my argument is that it takes 30 years for things to go from the lab to real life, I think early. So let's say 2002.
Okay, 2002 from Team A and Team B.
Yeah, okay, all right. I get to say this one because it might be wrong. Just to be exciting and different, I think we're going to go 2005. So trying to think where were we at these times. I remember the first conversation I had about a MOOC with Nick Short in the office in Camden. And I was at university in 2005. And so I feel like it was probably around about that time. Could be
So it's,
2002.
and the audit is quite split, but they do the majority agree with you. And actually, the answer is 2008. It was offered by the University of Manitoba. It was on connectivism and connective knowledge. And it was developed by Siemens, and I've heard of them. They're quite famous in mobile. Right, so our last question in this round is question 9, in fact. I have 9 questions already. Will we still be talking about MOOCs in 10 years' time? Maybe yes, no, so no. Or we're still going to be talking about MOOCs in 10 years. There are people in this room who will hopefully still be talking about MOOCs in 10 years' time. Does anyone have any things they'd like to? Steve, you look ready to go.
Sarah didn't share the questions with us before the event, but she did share the themes for each round. And I went, oh, MOOCs. Oh, yeah, I remember MOOCs. So I'm not sure we're talking about them much now. So I don't think we'll be talking about them a great deal. I'm not saying they'll go away, but I just don't think we'll be talking about them in the same way as we did with the kind of hype and negatives.
Yeah.
I think we're the same camp. So we think it's all about the SPOCs out there, small private online courses, which is essentially online learning. I think it was a hype phase. I think it was a thing for a while. People got excited about, but actually stackable micro credentials, we think is more the way we're headed to.
And it looks like our audience is quite split. It's quite interesting. Okay, so that concludes round 3. Up to Lewis.
Okay, and now the last round is about assessment. And we have, again, 3 questions. And the one is, which pandemic era assessment change is most likely to remain essential in the future of higher education? A, a full return to traditional closed book in-person exams. B, authentic assessments that mirror real-world tasks. C, AI-assisted assessments where students use generative AI tools transparently. And finally, D, continuous digital assessments using analytics platforms. What do you think? What are your predictions?
It's good.
Yeah, confirming is good.
Are we too good?
It's a good point, wisdom.
Yeah. Feel free to confirm on your tables as well.
So let's say we need an answer to move on to team A. Seem a bit.
I mean, there's the answer I'd like it to be, and then there's the answer it probably is. And I'm afraid the answer it probably is return to more in-person closed book exams, unfortunately.
And the answer you'd like to be?
Authentic assessment.
Okay.
So we think authentic assessments that mirror real world tasks. We think that also incorporates AI assisted assessments or AI incorporated assessments. But the reality we think is actually that it would be kind of well curated smorgasbord or including in-person closed, but because there's a particular focus on that.
Well, we are getting to somewhere. So really good answers from both teams, and I could see some chatting going around in the tables, which is also positive. Conscious of time, let's move on. 2 more questions to go, and the next one is about generative AI. Will it make traditional written coursework an unreliable method for assessing? Do you agree, disagree, or you just don't know?
Shall I come in there? I think it's where that written coursework is taking place, because if it's a closed book, closed room exam, in an example where there is no other input that the student can take from external sources, and that seems to be coming back a little bit as people don't trust technology or trust the students not to use technology. So I think we'll see a return of some of that sort of putting people in closed rooms, getting them to write, 1,000 words and 3/4 an hour. So I think there's going to be a reaction in that way, moving away from technology and a reaction to the technology to make written coursework more reliable in a very old-fashioned way. And there's some universities that have not moved away from that, who may sit back and go, well, there you go. That little technology things happen, we're still back in our room with that equivalent.
Good point. What about you, team I? It's your view.
I've got an annoyingly complicated answer for this one, which is that it depends. And it depends how you, so I don't think, yes, like a 5,000 word essay, submit this, you're done. And that's like 50% of the mark for the module. I don't think there's a great future in that. But actually written coursework can be an authentic assessment. If you're assessing the process, if you're looking at the scaffolding of students' learning, if you're tracking how students have thought about and interacted with different sources, there's lots of technology out there that will claim to check or make it more proof. I think there's always clever students working their way around that. But yeah, I don't think it's helpful to have a black and white answer for some of these. I would suggest that actually, yeah, there are ways that this can be done, as long as it's part of a broader package. I can see a few nods in the audience, which is always nice. Thank you for interactions and giving us that non-verbal.
So just to add to that, I agree with everything that you said, Chris. In terms of the question, I actually disagree with the question for the reasons that Chris outlined, because I think basically I work in an institution that is almost pathologically addicted to the traditional essay. And the essay is an interesting kind of like form of assessment, because actually it's about research, it's about reading, it's about literature, it's about argument development, it's about all of these things. But we tend to assess all of that through the final product. And actually, I think what generative AI is forcing on academics to do is think about the process, still valuing the writing, the act of writing, but also thinking of other ways of making visible the thought processes and the kind of learning that happens within that. So I don't think it's dead, but I think it's changed.
Thanks, Stella. And the very last question. So we are here celebrating the 20th anniversary of Rowett. So in 20 years' time, will universities still have summative assessments? Yes, maybe, no, or I don't know. Okay, let's start with TP.
I'm going to say a yes, but perhaps a yes in a more flexible way for students than we currently do. I mentioned my final year project was organising a conference. That was in the computer science department. They didn't really know how to mark organising conferences. They knew how to mark code in projects that gave you code. So my project supervisor said, well, if the mark scheme doesn't fit, choose your own. Let me see it, and if it's okay, we'll use your mark scheme. And I remember feeling very, very empowered as a student that I was actually, part of the design process. I didn't think of it as I would do now as a staff member, but that I had options, I had choices. My education could wrap around me, not just me fit to it.
Roger, your views on this one?
I think there's more of a push for students to have employability skills, whatever those things are, rather than academic skills when they leave university, which is where I was pushed 30 odd years ago. I think there's also the summative assessment requirements for professional bodies. So some subject areas, law, for instance, loves a good old summative assessment of an exam. And there's many other trades as well that require an exam or some way of demonstrating the culmination rather of a few weeks or few months worth of study to a point that you can produce an output. And there's some subject areas in the arts where it is the process you've gone through that's assessed, but also the final output of that, whether it's music, fine art, etc. You've got to show the summative result of your weeks of work, as well as showing the process you went through together. So I think yes, it's the treatments.
It's Roger. And what's about you, Stella?
Yes.
I can back up on the yes. Yes, because obviously we got into a definition of summative assessment, and it's something you do that they're going to award marks for. So yes, obviously we don't think it will necessarily be a big exam or a big piece of coursework. I remember talking 20 years ago about programmatic assessments, and having again that tapestry, but now I'm replacing that forevermore with smorgasbord. New favourite word, smorgasbord of assessments where students are being tracked across time. So yes, each one of those would be summative, collectively it's all a big summative assessment. They will be the gatekeepers of the awarding at the end of the day.
Well, that's the end of our competition. So I think it's up to me to the wrapping up. I just want to say a couple of things about this session. So the first thing is that Sarah and I have been meeting for a few times, and I think we had such great fun in preparing these things. So thank you, Sarah, for that. And the other thing is that thinking about a webinar Professor Susanna Quincy ran a few weeks ago as part of our code webinar series, she said we need to consider taking risks in the things we do in the classroom, in the academic life. So Sarah and I wanted to take some risks in preparing a session slightly different to involve the audience. I think we brought a bit of discomfort to our panelists, but maybe that's also part of life. We need to be, ready to respond to things that are unknown and not be ready to do a speech. So hopefully you enjoyed it, and Sarah will finish off with a task for you as a takeaway of this session. But thank you to our participants, our panelists.